Welcome to the Evening Review. This evening we are joined from Oshiwarongo by NALAO President, Mr. Moses Mtayayi. Before we go into that interview, please have a look at the front page. Welcome to the Evening Review, Mr. Mtayayi.
Thank you very much, and I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Now, speaking to you wearing a different hat, that of NALAO President, I'd like to know what impact does the suspension of municipal officials have by councillors on the service delivery that local authorities still have to render at the end of the day?
Thank you very much for the question. In fact, it is important to also understand that based on the institutional framework or the establishment of the organization, all the arms from the governance structure to the administration structure are interlinked in order to provide support to each other in different facets at the council level in terms of policy making and policy direction, administration in terms of operational matters and administrative efficiency in order to provide for the mandate. Thereof, the symbiosis or the synergy that links with these bodies is quite important. As we've emphasized in the letter that we've actually issued or the media statement, is that the consequences are actually very much dire, because certain decisions might not be able to be implemented as it's supposed to be, because there is an inconvenience in the process and also in the structure. And not only that, but service delivery, there are certain things administratively that should actually be done. And if it's not appropriately implemented or communicated or structured, it might hinder certain decisions from being implemented. The consequences at the end of the day is what one would say when two elephants fight. It's the grass that suffers. So the institution suffers. It might not be able to perform, or it will be limping. The community will suffer, because at the end of the day, they are not going to receive the level of service that they are supposed to receive as per what is mandated of the institution. So definitely the consequences can actually ripple effect. It's got a domino effect throughout the whole supply chain of the establishment of the institution and the mandate thereof.
And then I want to know, because on one end, when one looks now at how local authorities operate, you've got the bureaucrats or the technocrats that work for the municipalities or the village councils or whatever they may be. And on the other end, there are councillors that have been elected that serve now on council. Do you think there's a clear understanding from councillors on what is expected from them, in order to just ease the work that you do as municipal officials?
I should believe to a greater extent, yes, and also maybe no. It's twofold on both sides. Yes, in such a sense that government have actually allocated resources through the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development to ensure that councillors that are elected to a term go through an intensive induction process to understand, under many things, the legal framework of the establishment of local authorities. It could mean that some local authority council or members of council may not be able to be acquainted with the process and what exactly the institutional framework dictates. Thereof, the ministry as an oversight institution provides for intensive training, and I believe we've just concluded the training to that effect, which started late last year to this year. Around May was the last bunch of the training of the council members. So I believe there is an understanding to that effect created through the process that has been actually instituted under the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development, where councillors, all of them, including CEOs and administrators, are actually invited to this induction, and they ask questions, they learn, they understand. No, to such an extent that, yes, this could be a process that may be slow for one to grasp, because at the end of the day, one needs to understand how they can accustom themselves to the environment. When I mean the environment is the sector itself, which is the local authority sector. However, we all have different strategies, we all have different approaches, and we have different ideas. And some of these ideas might want to be implemented right away. However, we need to do it within a framework of the established regulations and the established laws. And when we negate that, we tend to actually take actions that may be contrary to what the processes then actually dictates. At the end of the day, this would not be able to help within the institution. Therefore, hence saying that as much as we might have ideas, approaches that might not be symbiotic to the institutional framework and the environment or the local authority sector itself, we might be able to miss the point in the decisions that we might be making.
And then, again, in that letter that you penned, you spoke of the need to establish a local government service commission. Can you just, what would the rationale be, and how do you see this assisting the work of councillors and technocrats such as yourself in ensuring service delivery at the local authority level?
Yeah. Importantly and most significantly, the question is quite right, and I think it's the right time for us to actually start tackling some of these issues. We've seen over the period of years what has become to be the result or the consequences of suspensions and all that. To a greater extent, we've seen CEOs being suspended or administrators being suspended, and please get me right. I, for one, and many other local authority CEOs do not condone any aspect that is untoward in terms of running the organization or maladministration. However, as we undertake this process, we also need to understand that we are just not sitting at these positions because we want to, but we are also here to serve. We are serving to the best of our ability with the resources that is available within our limits. The rationale within that was an outcry that came out in consultative discussions, where there was a need for a reform within the local authority sector in order to efficiently serve the masses better, as the changing trends have actually overtaken a lot of events. And this reform paper was then instituted, or it was then initiated from the Ministry of the Urban and Rural Development to actually study the reforms that might be required in order to enhance service delivery to the people. The reform paper was actually done by a a local authority reforms committee or commission that went out to all local authorities and regional councils around the country, as well as outside the country, to benchmark from the best practices. And one of the pertinent issues that came out from the reform paper was the establishment of the local authority commission that was going to look at aspects of the conditions of employment and their relationship, the employment relationship. Probably, I should think, borrowed from the aspects of Public Service Commission, which then avoids the aspect of, councillors being the referee as well as the player within the concept of, employing and also dismissing CEOs. And I think within that concept, this is where we call upon that these resolutions or these findings of the commission, which came out pertinently through the report of the Local Authority Reform Commission, should be implemented. And it's 2013, we are in 2021 right now. And some of those reforms, of which are pertinent to, working on this relationship, to enhance the relation between the employer and the employee, still remain in vacuum and has not yet been touched. And we're calling upon, re-interrogating this paper and re-looking at some of these issues of what pertinent importance is that aspect of, establishment of a reform, a commission that would look at the conditions of employment of the employer and the employee in regards to the executives that are actually employed within the local authority sector.
Looking at developments with regard to local authorities, I'm not going to mention, but what are you picking up when councils are split politically? For example, in the past we were used to having a certain political party dominating at council level, but we're seeing more and more the situation changing. How does this impact service delivery at local authority level?
Thank you. I think that's a heavy question, which I think is very important to be tackled from all angles. Pertinently, when a relationship breaks down, even within the members of council themselves, it degenerates to a situation where decisions of council would not be able to be taken first and foremost, because there is definitely division within council, and the objectivity within which the decision needs to be taken will not be able to hold. What is of pertinent importance is that when councillors are elected to the council, they then become one body. It's a body, it's a council, it's a governance structure that should govern at policy level. And within that concept, whatever they discuss, regardless of their opinions, they should base their aspects based on the facts, the principles, and the establishment, institutional framework with which they need to propel their decisions. Now, when decisions are not taken that would actually affect the beneficiaries, who are the masses at the end of the day, it becomes a situation where the institution will be seen to be failing in its mandate as given in terms of Section 30 of the Local Authorities Act. And this is where you would see that if that relationship is not working, institutions will be going down, development will not be taking place. Important decision of development in terms of land, service delivery, financial aspects, operational, might actually be affected because there are regulatory issues that needs to be adhered to at the end of the day. Forward to that, there is what you call the Code of Conduct established in terms of the Local Authorities Act, gazetted by the ministry in order to guide the relationship of members of Local Authority Council. And these are very simple governance issues that should actually govern relations, that should govern institutions, that should govern how decisions are actually taken and implemented, and how we are supposed to conduct ourselves at that level. Now, when we don't have that relationship, when we don't find common ground, and we grapple in fighting on the basis of whose idea is the better than the other, the suffering actually goes down to the institution, the administration, as well as the masses out there who we are supposed to serve as an institution. You can imagine now that if a certain decision is not taken at council level where we require approval to that effect, it would prolong or delay that specific, decision being taken. Because until until the right time, when the members have now ironed out their issues, that's when they can then come and say, we can now go and take decision. I don't think that is the situation we desire to run our institutions going forward.
And then there's another issue I want to touch on, and this now includes, this looks at the issue of financial reporting. One looks at the reports that are released by the Auditor General, you always find there are adverse recommendations and qualified opinions being released. What is being done to ensure that local authorities can improve the governance in terms of now the money that is allocated, budgeted for, that it is spent right, correctly, and accounted for?
Thank you. I think in most cases as public institutions, accountability is quite pertinent, and I should be able to flag out to say we are a statutory institution established by an Act of Parliament, which is the Local Authorities Act. And the Act provides and defines parameters within which we need to provide, financial reporting. Yes, definitely, the past few years has actually been bumpy in terms of our reports under many local authorities, but that is not the root. But the question is, what is the root cause of that? Certain things we tend to forget, which I'm passionate about, is the fact that as local authority, we used to operate with one of the mandates that is the electricity. And that brought in quite a good amount of money. But I should say, perhaps because we did not manage that aspect very well, there was an opportunity that was seen on how best we can improve. And that's an opportunity that came in the establishment of the REDs. And not that the REDs are bad, but the deep cut in terms of revenue that was deprived of the local authorities was quite deep, and there was no alternative replacement for that revenue source. And in that sense, we as local authorities have been providing services, doing so with a limping arm or a limping leg, if you should say so. And to that effect, definitely, when resources are not equated to the expectations, of course, the outcome will definitely not be what we would love to have. But that should not be an excuse. At governance structure, I think this is a different crop of, CEOs that have come in, because definitely trends have moved ahead. And we are striving at NALAO to ensure that even the CEOs themselves must ensure that their reporting is structured. Secondly, one thing that we might have missed within the whole fraternity is that we were unable to have a uniformed way of reporting. You go to the private sector, they speak of, for example, if you go to governance, they speak of King 5 or King's report. If you go to their financial reporting, they follow IFRI's reporting, and they have got that specific aspect. But for us, we have to follow, the general accounting and reporting principles that are probably to an extent quite outdated. And we did not have that structure so that we can then report better, for our reporting to reflect according to the definitions of what needs to be reported on and how and when. And I think these are some of the issues that we are busy advocating for, that for us to remain relevant, we definitely need to have adequate resources in terms of financing. We need to have a governance structure that is definitely understanding of our environment and our institutional framework. We need to understand that there needs to be a uniform reporting structure, a uniform financial reporting structure that we must conform to, and we will have to be held accountable against. And because of that, we believe that we will not condone local authorities that are actually not reporting according to how they are supposed to report. And we will hold each other accountable. And this was one of the aspects that we reiterated as an issue that needs to be looked at going forward at our 19th NALAO conference that was held in Katima some few months ago.
And then, Mr. Mtayayi, a last one before we let you go. The leadership vacuum as it is being experienced at Alan. And the work it has. How does this impact the work that local authorities are doing?
Thank you very much for the question. I think I would not be in the best position to speak for Alan itself, but I think as you know, partnering institutions who are within the same sector, Alan is more on members of council, and in that concept, we would believe that they are working to mend some of those issues or to establish themselves in terms of Alan establishment. However, with regards to the vacuum, of course, it's an advocacy level. Coming back to our reform paper that I had referred to, the local authority reform paper that was spent in 2013, and some of the pertinent resolutions not having been followed through, is an aspect that I want to still highlight as one of the recommendations that came out of the reform. That the local authority fraternity needs to have a body that is recognized in order for them to be able to, advocate better with the issues that are affecting the administration or that are affecting the leadership or the governance structure. Therefore, Alan plays a very, very important role in bringing the local authority leaders together, such that they can be able to share information and they can be able to share or benchmark on best practices and see how best this situation at their very local authorities can be improved. Therefore, the aspect of them not holding together or not standing to conclude what needs to be done, that I think remains very much within the ambit of Alan itself. Of course, it is local authorities are running, the governance structure is there, but it's just Alan that needs to organize themselves so that we be on par to advocate for what the sector actually then requires to be propelled and deliver better on our mandates.
And then any closing remarks, very briefly?
No, yes, what I would like to emphasize is that I think there is need for us to work together as a local authority fraternity. We are, one institution. We just have different parts. As the Bible says, we are one body, but different parts that have different functions. And without one, we will not be able to function properly. Example is that if your arm is not, if removed now, you might not be able to function at your optimal from the governance structure to the administrative structure and then to the employment structure or employees and staff. So we need to work every day and ensure that as institutions we have unity of purpose. We agree to disagree, but at the end of the day, the mandate must be performed, and the beneficiaries must feel our impact as institutions that are given the mandate to provide for the basic needs of the people. I think those are my parting words, and I believe that we can do it, and there's nothing that is insurmountable for us not to achieve.
Thank you so much for making the time to join us on the Evening Review.
Thank you for having me. I believe we will be talking more together.
Noted. Do
Thank you.
stay tuned for some Olympic coverage and have yourself a good weekend.
We were born for this moment. For every rise, every fall, to make the impossible possible. To create moments that inspire and live the thrill of excellence.
On the grandest stage of all.
Forget the past, for the future awaits. This is that moment we've all been waiting for pride, for country, for you.
Brilliant performance that was.
The Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. It's go time on GoTV. Love it.
Hi, my name is Philip Seidler. I'm 23 years old and professional open water swimmer that represented Namibia at the Tokyo 2021 Olympics for 10-kilometer marathon swimming. Coming into the week before my race with preparations in the village, I trained up to 2 days before my race, twice a day in the pool, where I did 5 kilometers in the morning with longer distance sets. And then in the afternoon, we did again 5 kilometers, but more speed work. So like short interval sets where you just sprint flat out for 5 kilometers. And yeah, so we came to a total of 10 kilometers because my race is a 10 kilometers. So we try to swim every day 10 kilometers. And I also got really great programs from Janis Stredegatti from Dorfmund Swimming Club. And my mom then coached me on those programs. 2 days before the race, we went 5:30 in the morning with a bus from the Olympic Village bus to the racing venue, so that we 6 o'clock there and could just swim and prepare on my racing time to adapt to like the hot weather, the water temperatures, which are like very hot for marathon swimming, which was about 29 degrees, 29.5 degrees, around about there. And yeah, coming into the race, I just, how it's called, my strategy was to the first 5 kilometers swim almost last, like second last position, third last position, be as far behind as possible, because I wanted to save as much energy as I could, so I could build up into the next 5 kilometers, which is the last 5 kilometers of a 10K, just pick up my pace and have a really, really strong finish. Because I know a lot of people's strategy is try to stay with the front pack. If you can't at the moment, then you don't do it, because then you won't finish your race. So for me, it was very important, and I knew I will overtake a lot of professional swimmers in the heat when I just have the right strategy and swim it smart, not going there to like overconfidence, just swim it smart and push your limits at the end. And yeah, so we had 7 rounds in the competition, and the first 5 rounds I took like not easy, but I swam on a pace that saved a lot of energy for me. And then the last 2 rounds, the 6th and 7th, I picked up my pace dramatically. Like I went from 70% swimming to like 90%, and then the last lap I went on 100% sprint. And yeah, like when I came to the last lap, I like overtook like 6-7 people, or I didn't even know about, I took so many people, I couldn't even count because I was just busy swimming. But I just see it like how I'm passing all the people, or most of the swimmers that are in front of me. and that led me to, with a strong finish, to the 16th place. The water conditions, it's very extreme conditions here because of the heat. In marathon swimming, the hotter the conditions, the faster you get dehydrated, so it's a very, very tough course. But luckily I swam a professional World Cup in Seychelles, a 10 kilometer, which is very similar conditions, and so I was mentally already prepared and knew what was coming towards me for the race. So I knew, okay, Philip, just save your energy and then break and kill it at the end. And that's what I did. And that led me to 16th position. And I'm like so grateful and so happy for that position. It's really being the 16th best in the world out of 26 professional swimmers. Everyone is good. And even better, I came in as an underdog, like the second last. I came in being placed 24th out of 26 swimmers, like the second last swimmer, and I came 16th, so I built up to 10 places, which is insane. And yeah, I'm very grateful. I'm so grateful that I could represent my country on the highest stage in the world. And I just want to thank every Namibian. I want to say thank you. This swim was for every person in Namibia that's suffering with COVID, that had a family member that died of COVID, or a friend that passed away from COVID, and also to my mentor Sean, who passed away beginning of this year. This swim was for him. He believed in me in day one, and yeah, I'm just super grateful. This swim was for Namibia, not only for me. And yeah, I'm gonna enjoy my last day here in the Tokyo village now. Gonna do some nice photos because I never had the time to. I was just so mentally, professionally prepared. Swim, train, eat, sleep, swim, and that's it. And now today is my day where I have a day off, so I can just take some amazing photos. And yeah, I'm very stoked with the race. And maybe what the people can add is my strategy with the feeding was to not hydrate, was feed around 2 or after lap 2, then lap 4 and lap 5, because if I would have fed on the 6th lap, which goes into the last lap, the 7th lap, I would lose position. So I said, okay, feed 4 and 5 to build up a lot of hydration for that last 2 rounds, and it just worked out perfectly to make me just overtake a few positions in the feeding. And yeah, I'm very grateful, and thank you for everyone. Bye.